Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise podcast. I'm your host, Griffin Aldrich. Alongside me is your co-host, Seamus Zarlingo, presented by Celtics Talk Weekly. So the Boston Celtics, we come back a week forward. The Boston Celtics are now 59-20. I just had to say, I wanted to say before anything, I kind of called it. I said the Celtics would be 4-0 because we've been on such a hot streak. But I said if there's one game they do lose, it would be that Miami game. And that was the case for the Boston Celtics. But what are your initial thoughts, Seamus, just even going into playoffs? If we look at playoff opponents just going into playoffs, what are your thoughts just for the rest of this regular season? Only 3 games left. It's crazy to me. It feels like the finals was just yesterday, and now 3 games left of the season. It's nuts to me. But what are your thoughts, Seamus, on this whole stretch? And then we'll get into the games and we'll go from there. But playoff opponents and your initial thoughts.
Well, first, the NBA season goes by so quickly. I mean, just 4 or 5 months ago, we were barely into the season. We were not even into the season yet. And now, all of a sudden, the season is, well, there's 3 games left. I mean, not much more could be achieved over these next 3 games. Is That's going to tell us more about the Boston Celtics than we already know. Other than, of course, getting to 60 wins and maybe even 62 wins. 62
Yeah.
wins. If the Celtics go 3-0 in their next 3 games, they get to 62 wins, and you and Franco, you get to that mark. I mean, we thought it was crazy a couple of weeks ago when we were making predictions with 10 games left. It was 10 games left. I believe it was exactly 10 games. And now, Celtics, they needed to go 9-1 in those 10 in order to reach 63 wins, or sorry, 62 wins. Now, they lost to the Heat, as you said. But the Celtics, that's the only mark they need to achieve in the next 3 games. Now, where they're at in their season right now, they're hitting their stride at the right point. The only game lost within the last 10 games was that Miami Heat game, and that was a one-off. It was simply a one-off within the Celtics schedule because you look at every game around that, and the Celtics have purely dominated every single opponent. And this past week, that's what the Celtics did outside of that Miami Heat game. Now, I'm talking about the Knicks game. The Knicks game was last night, as we know, but outside of that game, I mean, the Celtics, first of all, still won that. Still won the game. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest of performances. If you go on post game, we of course filmed last night. Hear us talk about it. It wasn't the prettiest of performances from the Celtics. They didn't really execute well down the stretch. I mean, they didn't hold the lead early on in the game. They held the lead in the second half, but the Knicks held the lead in the first half. And it felt like the Knicks really controlled the game, and the Celtics, they didn't shoot well. They were out rebounded. They turned the ball over a lot. The Knicks were playing with high energy throughout the night, and that really bothered the Celtics. You know, guys like Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, all of the guys that you think, well, yeah, these players are supposed to disrupt the Boston Celtics. That's why the Knicks went out and traded 7 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. When you give up that haul of assets, you definitely expect your team to be playing hard and to challenge a team like the Boston Celtics if you're the New York Knicks. And they finally did for the first time this season last night in New York. However, it wasn't enough. Everything went against the Celtics in that game, including the fact, well, there's no Al Horford and Jalen Brown. He was limited to about 20 minutes of play, played 21:39, was not present in crunch time whatsoever. That's the one concerning point about the Celtics right now is Jalen Brown's health. No doubt there's certainly some concerning aspects of his going about games right now that I'm not sure how it's going to play out during the playoffs. If he's injured, his knee's injured right now. He's only playing 20 minutes. It looks like he's just trying to get over that 65 game threshold for the eligibility of awards. Jalen Brown, he has to play now 2 of the next 3. So 3 games left on the schedule. 2 of the next 3 play 20 minutes a game in those games in order to be eligible for awards. Brown sits at 63 games played this season. And right now you can see he's just going over the mark slightly. The Celtics, Joe Mazzulla played him 21:39, as I mentioned last night. Other Celtics, Porzingis played 38 minutes. Drew Holiday played 37 minutes. Tatum played 47 minutes last night. All of the players for the Celtics that you typically feel like, oh, well, they're on ice at this point in the year, or Holiday, Horford, Porzingis. You had Horford not even play, but these two guys, Holiday and Porzingis, 37, 38 minutes, Tatum 47 minutes. Yeah, you have Brown sitting down there at 21 minutes played. That
Wow.
to me signals something is wrong with Jaylen Brown. And that also signals that he's trying to get to that 65 game threshold in order to become eligible for awards. Because otherwise, why would you be doing this right now if you're completely healthy? Jaylen Brown, if he was completely healthy, they'd be playing him the full game. But just to say this, outside of that Miami game, Phoenix, you blow out Phoenix yet again. Phoenix just looks like a team they had the inside track to get that 10 seed, the 9 seed. I don't really know why you'd want it out west. Phoenix might as well tank with how lost of a season this has been. I mean, what's the point of getting 9 and 10 out west if I mean you could get 9 or 10. That's the thing about the converse. That's why the playing tournament is a little silly. You have all this time to converse about, oh, well, the Phoenix Suns, they're trying to get the 10 seed, they're trying to get the 9 seed, the Mavericks, they're trying to get the 9 or 10 seed. Well, that 9 or 10 game, somebody's going to attain the 9 or 10 seed, which is an underwhelming season, and they're going to lose in the 9 or 10 game. They're going to play one playing game, and that's it. That's where the Suns are. They're first of all, I don't, they're not going to make the play in, but if they did, I don't know if they'd make it past that first play in anyway. But the Celtics just made, I mean, they were fresh meat to the Celtics. When you're not giving that high effort out there and you're allowing Devin Booker to just play street ball on offense, and that's what you're running is, oh, on defense, you're standing around, standing up everywhere. And then offensively, it's just Devin Booker taking over playing street ball. The Celtics are going to eat every single time. And that's exactly what happened. The Celtics were up in that game throughout the entirety of the game and then blew the Celtics, or sorry, blew the Suns out by 20. You have that Washington game, another just 34-point trouncing by the
Nah.
Celtics. And the Wizards were just young. They're just not that talented. And they're going to have talented guys later on in time who develop. You shouldn't give up on the young Wizards whatsoever. But this season, we all know it's a throwaway year for the Wizards. It's capture the flag, and everything that goes on there is not going to be indicative of where some of these young players go within their NBA career. But that was that Wizards game. And then New York, obviously, last night in overtime. So that's 3-1 in the last 4 games for the Celtics, and I'm loving the last 3 games, particularly after that Heat game you talked about, because the Celtics actually needed to respond in that after that Heat game. The Heat game, that was a bad loss. I mean, it really was. The Heat came out with players you expect the Celtics to match up well against and play to a level in which they're able to beat the Heat at home. And we've all known about the Celtics' struggles at home this season. That game, the Celtics played terribly in, and you want to see them rebound because the rest of the schedule, we don't want to see a stretch where the Celtics go 3-3 going into the playoffs, or 2-4. And obviously that could have wiped out the 60 game or the 60 win scenario for the Celtics. They come back from that game, 20-point win against the Suns, 34-point win against the Wizards, two opponents you absolutely should beat on your home floor if you're the Celtics. And then they play the Knicks. They don't play well against the Knicks. However, they still come out with a win and need to execute down the stretch in that game. And the Celtics haven't seen many games this month, or really the past, you look, 20, 30 games. Not too many games where the Celtics have needed to pull games out down the stretch. Last night, not the prettiest of results down the stretch. You had a missed free throw by Tatum. You had a couple of late switches on defense. You had an uncovered cut by Josh Hart. So you do have a couple of things that didn't go the Celtics' way. You couldn't really get a stop down the stretch. If you're the Celtics, you allowed a 10-2 run in 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. However, the Celtics were still resilient, overcame adversity, pulled out the win. Jason Tatum with the huge shot to send it to overtime, as we all know, and then Kristaps Porzingis a huge shot in overtime to put the game away. And that's what you want to see from the Celtics schedule. Outside of Jaylen Brown, as I mentioned, the Celtics team's hitting their stride. The team chemistry is through the roof right now. I mean, the assist number every single game is just bonkers. I mean, 33 assists the other night against the Washington Wizards, and we're seeing that routinely, about 30 assists or more a game, and that's usually the elite mark of the NBA when you see a team passing the 30 assists, and that's where the Celtics are within their schedule right now. Is they're hitting their stride at the right time. They're playing team basketball. They're getting after on the defensive end of the floor, and they're putting up great wins on their schedule despite playing with inconsistent personnel. And the games, let's face it, the Celtics are finally locked into the 2 seed. The
Yeah.
Cavs, they clinched the number 1 seed last night. The Knicks are, of course, down, locked. The Knicks aren't locked into that three. They could fall to four, but they can't go up to two. So the Celtics are locked in that two seed. These games don't mean much for the Celtics when it comes to standings yet. They're still putting up good performances. They're still finding their rhythm, still finding their flow, still establishing it before the playoffs. And that's what you want to see out of a championship level squad going into the playoffs is that rhythm, that flow, that good play and the team not really, I don't want to say not caring about the games meaning nothing, but you definitely want to see more competitive fight and more competitive spirit out of a team that's going into the playoffs. And the Celtics are giving that to us right now.
Uh, I love that take, Seamus. I want to give you your flowers right now because I gotta say you've done an amazing job making this. Like we were just a quick off Celtic, well, kind of on relevance, but we were after one of the post game shows last week. I think it was the Suns one. We sat here and Seamus just went to work, and look what masterpiece he came up with, and that's the Celtics basketball color at the bottom. Just had to say, but Seamus, I just want to give you a round of applause. You do such a great job, man, and I
We're
love
going
it.
to take a bow on camera.
Yeah, I gotta take a bow. Gotta give it that bow. But I love your take too. I feel like I want to apologize too. Only watched 2 of the 4 games, so it's been rough for me, like trying to get in games and whatever. But I want to say I love your take. I think the Boston Celtics going into playoffs are perfect where they are. And one thing that stood out to me is when you were talking about Jalen Brown. I feel like it now this is a question. We already kind of covered it, I feel like on the post game show, but him limping or like him having trouble with his leg and like him being in visible pain, is that worth him doing 2 more games or should he take those off? Because I'm looking at Jalen Brown and I'm like, okay, I know you get bonuses, you get like respect, whatever you like for awards, but at the same time, what's more important to you, a championship? I don't know. I'm not gonna focus on that though. I feel like we talked about it was that Phoenix Suns game we talked about Jalen Brown. So if you guys want to go to that post game show and watch that and hear
We
our
should have a
thoughts on
clip on it later as well. We talked about it. We talked about it a lot lately. I mean, really on the post game, you go back to the Phoenix Suns game. You go back to he had a couple of efficient games this week. Jalen Brown. I mean, he if you look at the schedule, so just going back to the schedule this week, real quick. Jalen Brown had an efficient game against the Suns. The Wizards um, played as well. So let me just let me stat check here. So against the Phoenix Suns, Jalen Brown that night, he had he played 28 minutes, 31 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. So he was our player spotlight that night. Went 10 of
yeah,
16 from the floor. Jalen Brown did against the Phoenix Suns, and then against the Washington Wizards, Jalen Brown also came out and if I'm not mistaken, played fairly efficiently. As I get to the number here of what Jalen Brown had on the evening against the Washington Wizards. But last game, the last game is the more concerning game for Jalen Brown. He
yeah,
only played 21-39. And he did play 22 minutes against the Washington Wizards, but last night, Jalen Brown just was not effective from the floor and wasn't there in crunch time. But against the Washington Wizards, Jalen Brown, 15 points, 5 of 9 from the floor. So poor today. I mean, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. So definitely a lesser performance. We've seen efficient performances out of Jalen Brown this past week. That 31-point game, one player spotlight. Yet he doesn't really look all the way there. Doesn't look fully
yeah,
athletic, fully engaged. I mean, there are a couple. I mean, the Celtics, they were being out rebounded last night by the New York Knicks. And I felt like some of that rebounding battle, or the reason the Knicks, the discrepancy in the rebounding battle for the Knicks, I felt like some of that was caused by Jalen Brown not being able to go out there and sky for rebounds and go in traffic and be athletic and jump with the rest of the guys out there. Jalen Brown was I don't want to say taking it easy, but there were moments where you could tell, oh, he should have got that rebound and he didn't quite lunge for it the way you might typically see him do. That's the thing about Jalen Brown right now. We've had the efficient performances, but after it, seen the minutes restriction. We've seen him kind of fade away into the fold. I mean, the Wizards game, he didn't have to do much. We all know, but that Knicks game last night. I mean, he wasn't there during crunch time while everybody else was playing major minutes. And the way Jaylen Brown talks about his injury, just not, it's like, oh, he's trying to feel better, but he thinks rest isn't going to work. And that those kind of things just kind of alarm me going into the playoffs. I will say, when it comes to the second best player on the Celtics, everything is going right for this Celtics team right now. And I mean, it's natural, I will say, in the NBA. It feels like every single team come playoff time has an injury somewhere on their roster, whether big or small. I mean, think about the Pacers last year. They were missing their backcourt. Benedict Mathurin, Tyrese Halliburton. In that Cavs series, Donovan Mitchell goes out for most of the
Yeah.
series. Jimmy Butler was missing for the Heat. I mean, those are big hitters last year, but it can also be within the margins too. Celtics right now, they have a big hitter, Jaylen Brown. If he's injured come playoff time, that's going to be a big hit to the roster. And that's going to be a big hit whether he is either unhealthy and not playing, which is what we don't want to see, or he is active and not necessarily healthy on court, but playing yet not making his normal impact. That could be a thing for the Celtics moving forward. And that's something to monitor. We talked about it a lot. The Phoenix game, he had a great game, but the Washington game, 20 minutes, not the greatest quotes coming out from that one. And then afterwards, we had the Knicks game, which I don't know if that was the most concerning data point or not, but 21 minutes, 21-39 when you have Porzingis playing over 35, Tatum was playing over 45, Giroux was playing over 35. Those are the guys you want to typically put on ice. Jaylen Brown is put on ice because he has an injury, and that just, to me, an intense environment last night where you definitely wanted to have him out there. I mean, the Celtics were trying to win that game. They were competitive in that game against the New York Knicks. Without Jaylen Brown in the lineup, that is, I understand come playoff time, you could be in the lineup during that scenario, but right now, the fact they're limiting his minutes and he's seemingly, I think he's trying to get over the 65 game threshold. There's no other reason right now
Mm.
he'd be playing 20 minutes in a game when he has 63 games played. I mean, there has to be something within his contract that says, oh, you played 65 games, you get an extra $1 million, something of that nature. I don't think he's going to make All NBA. I don't think he's going to get an award. There might be extra contract incentives over time, whether it's built on how many seasons of 65 games can you get, or just this season in general. Something has to be going on because I don't think otherwise. Why would they just be playing him 20 minutes in that game last night? Why would they be playing him 20 minutes in the Wizards game? And he doesn't quite look all the way there. He might get his points here and there, but doesn't really look athletically there. I will say that's the concerning part about this whole Celtics run. But as you're saying, there's a lot of aspects, however, that makes this Celtics run great. I mean, there's a lot of great things to be said about the Celtics right now, and that's just the one sore spot that I feel like every team's going to deal with come playoff time is an injury somewhere. But unfortunately for the Celtics, it is to Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, and I wanted to say I was watching Celtics City last night. And one thing that really stuck out to me was Kevin McHale and his injury. I don't know if
Oh,
you watched,
yes.
but
Oh yeah, I mean, not even with Celtic City, but I mean Kevin McHale in 1987, that's the common theme around that team is if Kevin McHale didn't break his foot and if Lynn Bias didn't drop dead at the beginning of the season from a cocaine overdose, that 87 team would have been different. That's what's at stake this year's playoffs. Like, what if Jaylen Brown is healthy? 2009 Kevin
I
Garnett. What
I
if
don't want to
Kevin
get to
Garnett is healthy?
I don't want to get to that because I that scares me. Like looking at 2008 and obviously that team, but like I'm not gonna get there. I'm not gonna think that. I'm gonna say, look, we're gonna go into playoffs and we're gonna be good. That's what I'm saying. I am putting positivity in the air because we're going back to back. But I wanted to kind of get into one thought. Obviously, you covered the games perfectly. Uh, I wasn't, like I said, I watched that Heat game. It was a blowout. It was one where I was smacking my head against the desk. I was kind of annoyed about that one, but whatever. Not worried about that one. And then, yeah, wasn't too worried about that one. Oh, the Phoenix Suns game. Suns game, good game from Jaylen Brown. I saw him kind of, he looked, like we've been saying, he kind of looked there. He had a good game, but he was kind of like sore. You could tell he's sore. Um, then we fast forward to that blowout against the Wizards, and I'm gonna pull this up.
Mhm.
That's one of the discussions. Not I wasn't very happy when I was at dinner and I open up my phone to seeing Marcus Smart getting to an altercation at no other place. This hasn't. I don't think this has happened this season, but where is he getting into an altercation? At TD Garden. Seamus, if you wanted to pull up the video too, I mean, this is something you don't want to see. You don't want to see this. You really, really don't want to see this. This is, I don't know. But
It,
Franco
yeah,
had,
go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron.
yeah, Franco has some inside footage that he sent, so we could give you that, obviously. But
So here we go. Let's look at the film here. It's going to be the same video we showed on post game the other night. We're going to format this a little better now, but we will see the parquet floor, and then you'll see the video pop up on screen. And I really want to put an emphasis that this video might be a little small, so you're going to want to look more towards the left side of the video, because there's going to be Nemai's Kate is going to be balling in the background, but the story is the foreground with Marcus Smart and the fan, and that should be on the bench. So let's take a look here at this video. We're going to pull this screen up first and then pop it up. And we'll play that for everybody again. Notice the guy in the designer jacket, the black designer jacket with white stuff all over it. That's the person of interest in this situation, and Marcus Smart is pointing at him. So let's show that again. So yeah, that video comes from an inside source from Franco. We can pop it up here one more time, but I'm going to put an emphasis that the guy in the designer jacket next to the guy with the Trevor Story jersey. Okay, add in another detail there. I noticed that the last time around. Let's show it a third time since this video is so short.
Can I
just, folks?
I just wanted. Oh, you got. Yep.
And there's a couple of tweets. And this is obviously from the game day, but this is from Zach Cox. Marcus Smart just got into a shouting match with someone behind the Wizards bench. Stadium security escorted this fan in the black jacket out. So there you go. See the fan in the black jacket there. Yeah, there's white stuff all over the jacket, but it's a black jacket with some white stuff on it. And that's a pretty expensive jacket we pointed out on post game the other night. And then we have in here Gary Washburn, Marcus Smart sitting on the Wizards bench. This was one of the first tweets to be released in this situation. Has to be restrained from a fan sitting behind the Washington bench. The fan is being escorted out of the arena, as we already heard. Meanwhile, the Celtics fans start chanting, "We want Marcus." And you know what we didn't get, Griffin? You know what we didn't get? We didn't get Marcus that night. We absolutely, in a 30-point blowout, we didn't get Marcus Smart that night. But there you go. There's the Marcus Smart interaction at the TD Garden.
Yeah, I want
This is to be expected every time a former Celtic comes through. There's always some shenanigans going on. Maybe not this negative, but the energy is always there for shenanigans when a former Celtic comes back from the building.
Yeah, I say this though. I don't think there's any animosity like there was with Kyrie Irving. Like it's completely
no. This was just an ignorant fan. From my perspective, this was just an ignorant
fan. A fan then?
It wasn't like
I wonder if it was even a fan. I wonder what was like. I don't.
But we also have to remember, Smart was not like widely appreciated or liked by every Celtics fan. Like there were a lot of Celtics fans who really wanted Marcus Smart to go when he was with the Celtics, and when he actually did go, they were happy about it, especially getting Kristaps Porzingis. But he was always the player where it's going, oh, taking the ball out of Tatum and Brown's hands. Why, in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2023, Derek White has that awesome putback moment, but that putback moment is created by a terrible Marcus Smart shot. It is. Marcus Smart took a 3 over 2 defenders to save the game, and it's just like it's off balance, wobbly. It's like, why is this shot not going to Brown or Tatum? Goes to Marcus Smart, and he misses, and that could have been the season. Derek White saves it, and I'm not, I'm Marcus Smart, for as loved as he is in Boston, not always widely liked. I'm just saying.
I will say a lot of people, you either meet a diehard Marcus Smart fan that they love Marcus Smart, or you hate him. It's a love-hate situation with Marcus Smart. You either love him or you hate him. Because I've talked to a lot of people, which I'm not gonna get into any names, but I've had people on this program even that I tried talking about Marcus Smart, and after they're like, yeah, I don't like Smart, and I'm like, okay, all right, and I was like,
It's totally natural for people not to like Smart because really analytically, he's not the most efficient of players, and
no,
his reputation was mostly built in more like
weaker.
what we
Can I
talked about last night, the game. So the big phrase was, well, last night's game against the Knicks didn't analytically mean anything from the record standpoint, the standings, everything, but it spiritually meant something. It meant something for the confidence of both teams and
Yeah,
for the play of both teams going into the playoffs, how they feel about themselves, how they might feel about themselves in a series against each other, and kind of set the tone for that matchup maybe 2-3 weeks from now. That game was an important spiritual game. That's the phrase also with Marcus Smart. He was an important spiritual player for the Boston Celtics, not necessarily an important analytical player. I mean, we saw the numbers. The Celtics record would go, I mean, it would go up, it'd be better when Marcus Smart didn't shoot the ball. I mean, if
yeah,
Marcus Smart wasn't contributing on offense from a shooting standpoint, he was doing it from a playmaking standpoint, and that's when the Celtics were actually good on that end of the floor and good as a basketball team. If Marcus Smart was taking 20 shots a game, or I believe the stat was more than 10 field goals a game, the Celtics had a 500 record. And if he shot under 10 field goals a game, the Celtics had a winning record, like a gaudy winning record when he shot under 10 field goals a game. So you definitely have this discrepancy in Marcus Smart love and hate because you have more of the people who are inclined with analytics, efficiency, and playing the game of basketball in the most efficient way possible to optimize the team at its height. You have those people who are probably not the biggest Marcus Smart fans because he wasn't always the biggest analytical optimizer when out on the floor.
yeah,
But from a spiritual standpoint, from a locker room chemistry standpoint, Marcus Smart was always the guy everybody pointed to as, oh, he's the leader of the locker room. He's a voice of the locker room. He gets guys going when he's on the floor from the standpoint of energy. I think a little bit of that wore out over time in Boston when you're a young guy, you're not paid, you're trying to get paid. You're more that young dog out there. We think, Shireman right now with the Boston
yeah,
Celtics. He's like, oh yeah, that dog. But when you're paid and you're staple, and he was one of the faces, he was basically part of the core with the Celtics. The core, the core
mhm.
group, the young core group of the Celtics was at one point Tatum, Brown, Smart, Robert Williams. Those were the four,
What?
21, 22. Those were the four guys. And Marcus Smart was a part of that. That quad group, but more importantly, the trio, Brown, Tatum, and himself. And at that point, it's like, how much of a leader are you? How much are you getting these other guys going in the locker room? How much of that spiritual aspect matters when you're more of a, he definitely treated the situation as if he were in that big three conversation. He was fairly enough in the Celtics organization, but his talent and his ability, that analytical optimization that I'm talking about, the shooting, the passing, everything that comes on the floor when we talk about not turning the ball over, making smart plays. Marcus Smart, not always the best in every category there, but that's where it's like, did he run out of that over time? The spiritual aspect because he's paid. He's not a young guy anymore. He's a veteran. But Rob talks about it. The fundamental problem with Marcus Smart in Boston. I mean, he was playing a way bigger role than what his talent was actually
Mhm.
suited for. I mean, he was taking on way more responsibility within the offense and just as a leader of the team than what his talent actually was suited for in Boston. And I think some people, that discrepancy for them, it weighed on their opinion when it came to Marcus Smart because people went, okay, why does this player make sense on this team? He's not as
Yeah,
talented as the others, but we're treating him as if he is. And that's where the Celtics, I think, put themselves. That's where Brad Stevens made the most gut wrenching move in moving Marcus Smart. But at the same time, the move, I think, put the Celtics over the hump because they realized, okay, here's this piece. I mean, he's a part of the big three essentially, right? The big three for the Celtics. Well, he's not of that talent level yet. He's taking on that responsibility, that leadership role. Well, maybe
but
we
he's
change
not
that and
that.
bring in a guy like Kristaps Porzingis. Maybe we open up minutes for a guy like Peyton Pritchard, who's more young and hungry, that dog that we think about. And that's where the Marcus Smart experiment I shouldn't even say experiment, but experience
Mhm.
ended in Boston. Ended. And I'm not surprised that fans, he wasn't. That's the thing. It's like people think Celtics fans love Marcus Smart, and for the most part they do. They respect him. But there was a wide swath of the fan base that absolutely did not like Marcus Smart and wanted him. They wanted him on the Memphis Grizzlies back in 2018 for Tyreek Evans. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget. We go through all these playoff runs with Marcus Smart, and yet it all began. I shouldn't say it all began, but it could have all ended at the very precipice of it in 2018, 2019. Celtics looking to trade Marcus Smart other places. Never happened. Never. I mean, they might have shopped him, but it never actually happened. You have all these great moments with him in 2022 and 2023, but it's just to actually optimize the Celtics. Marcus Smart likely needed to be moved. Let's just face it. That's what happened. Now we see guys like Peyton Pritchard step up. We see guys like Holiday and White in the lineup make sense next to the team and where their roles are on the team. It makes sense. And obviously, if Kristaps Porzingis there, I mean, 7'3" big man, you
Can't
got
beat it.
him for Marcus Smart. And under that scenario, I mean, he's the unicorn. We all know how he plays out there on the floor and what kind of boost he gives to the Celtics. So Marcus Smart, the experience there, it's definitely going to be an interesting history when people talk about Marcus Smart, including this moment, because this moment where he gets into an interaction with a fan, now we're making more of it than probably what it was. I mean, the fan
Yeah.
was escorted out of the arena. Smart, there was that one little moment. We know Smart's fiery. We've seen it for years, going against J.R. Smith, going against DeAndre Bembry. Those guys, Marcus Smart is a fire. We know he's a fiery personality. That moment comes out because the fans probably heckling him, heckling the Wizards. We don't even know. I mean, we heard the rumor was the fan was heckling things about Marcus Smart not being able to get off the bench for a terrible Wizards team and how terrible the Wizards are. I don't know how much I fully believe that, but it's certainly possible. The Sox were playing earlier in the day, the drinks are flowing, guys were at the arena. You never know what's going to happen in those
Yeah.
situations. But I do look at it and go, right now, this was a surprise appearance for Marcus Smart. He's traded by the Grizzlies at the deadline. We thought we were only going to see him December 7th, but we saw him again in April. And I'm a little mad at Brian Keefe, I got to say, the Wizards head coach. You're down by 34. The whole crowd is chanting, "We want Marcus." Hey, folks, at the end of the day, this is a production, all right? The basketball is important to go out there and win and play with efficient lineups, but it's also a production. It's also what the fans want to see. It's about what the fans want to see on the floor. And hey, Marcus Smart, hey, people paid great money to come see the Wizards and the Celtics play. I mean, I'm sure there were $100 seats up in the rafters
Oh
for
yeah.
that game,
I
a
actually
Wizards
no,
Celtics game right now.
yeah.
And Marcus Smart, people want to see Marcus Smart, and Brian Keefe goes, "Nope, we're fine with Marcus Smart on the bench." It to me
I
made
know
no sense.
someone I know someone that went and paid $80 for their tickets up in the rafters.
Just what was it to see Marcus Smart?
I think it was just a game, but still, because but still, those tickets were bumped up because of Marcus Smart being there. Like
Yeah, exactly. And
a
it's like,
Wizards
all
fan
right,
who's
he didn't
paying
even play.
$80 to go to a Wizards game at the end of the season. I know for sure when that Hornets game comes around, they're not paying $80 for a Hornets game. No, you won't be, not up in the rafters like that. But can I add on to your point really quick? I think I love what you said earlier. I wanted to just really quick add on to it is the fact that Marcus Smart was essentially our big three. He was our third option on this team. And you look at him with the Grizzlies. Did he do so hot? Not really. He was kind of a piece that was kind of
Played like
pushed.
33 games for them. I mean, he was never healthy.
No, but and then you fast forward to the Wizards now. Like he's not essentially a big piece on this team either. So, but I think it's just the fact of winning expectations. Like a highlight, I think I even mentioned it not too long ago, but a highlight for me is when Marcus Smart runs out of the tunnel after hurting his ankle, after that ankle sprain, comes back in the game. I think that was an ankle sprain, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
yeah.
obviously, it was a mild ankle sprain because came back out there.
Yeah,
That
but
was game. Was that game 4, 2022 Eastern Conference Finals? It's either game 3 or
it
game
was
4. Now,
yeah.
oddly enough, the Celtics lost that game, which It's weird because those games have those feels to them where special thing happens, right? Special thing happens, and you think about the Nuggets the other night. Jokic scores 61, they lose the game. That's what it feels like when we look back at history. Sometimes Marcus Smart comes back, great moment, has his Paul Pierce moment.
They lose.
Celtics still lose the game. That being said, they won the series. So Celtics win the war, lost that one battle. Sometimes you got to take them where you can get them, but yeah, that moment back then though does symbolize, and even the games played that I mentioned, the 33 with the Memphis Grizzlies. Marcus Smart, the Celtics. What's amazing about the Celtics and even the Patriots over time, just mentioning football and the Patriots and another Boston sports team who's able to just perpetually do this. The Celtics and the Patriots have somehow been able to let go of players they believe are past their prime. And immediately, when players aren't playing for the Celtics or Patriots, you see they fall off a cliff. Now, that doesn't happen every single time.
And the Bruins, can we mention too? I feel like this is
I
happening.
can't say much about hockey, I'm not gonna lie, but I
Yeah,
will say the
I know.
Bruins,
Yeah.
I'm it looks in the standings, but I'm just looking at the standings. I can't say much about the Bruins. It
Oh,
looks like they're
they're off. I don't know. I don't know about hockey either. No, but I love that point though, because it's true. You kind of get rid of them and then you look, oh, but I feel like that might have been Marcus the whole time. Like I love Marcus Smart. I have a Smart jersey over there, but I'm saying this. I think that could have been him the whole time. I feel like just the fact that he was in Boston and you have a winning expectation, and he has such a big role here in Boston, and you don't want to upset the fans. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. Like you said, Seamus, I don't think it was a big thing. I don't think he has any animosity towards Boston. I think he's fine with it. I think it was kind of just a silly little thing. I think he still loves Boston. I don't think that created any beef or anything. Um, but I do want to get on to do you
Let me
have
say
any?
one thing though about this
Yeah.
Marcus Smart thing real
Oh
quick.
yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Celtics, Robert Williams, Marcus Smart, part of the core at one point, both completely break down after their Celtics career. I think
You're
the Celtics medical staff knew something about them, knowing, oh, Marcus Smart plays this way, had this many injuries in his career, he's getting to this point, and he's this
right.
athletic. He's not, he doesn't have the same athleticism as the beginning of his career when he's flying around, diving on the floor, making these crazy defensive plays. Robert Williams, same way, a couple knee surgeries, and he's just had the most unfortunate injury luck in Portland. But both of those players, the Celtics had both those players on their roster right now. How many games would we even see out of Marcus Smart or Robert Williams? They've literally combined for what, 50 games? I don't know, 50 games since they left. I mean, that's atrocious. We played 282 game seasons, and both of those players have played a combined, I want to say, what, 50, 60, could be a little bit more, but they haven't even combined for a season's worth of games between the two of them in 2 seasons. So that's something the Celtics. I know Kristaps Porzingis isn't the healthiest player in the world, and Drew Holiday misses games here or there, but Celtics
But it's better than
definitely
what we
dodged
had.
a bullet with that health. I
Yeah.
mean, they get rid of Marcus Smart and Robert Williams at the right time. I hate to say it, but both those guys are injury prone, have not been able to stay healthy on court. Celtics ship them off, bring in Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday. Malcolm Brogdon is another name too. Didn't play with the Wizards, but
Yeah.
he he
He's been
he's been
injured
in and
too.
out as well.
Yep.
So the Celtics have somehow hit the nail on the head when it comes to, all right, here are these players, and I don't know how, like, Grant Williams was more of a financial situation. We don't want to pay Grant 15 million, but even him, he's not on court. Now that's not something you can predict, him tearing his ACL the way he did. But all of those players perpetually injured. And if the Celtics had them on the roster right now, I really don't think they'd be as good. They just simply wouldn't be as good. And unfortunately, that's just the history when it comes to basketball. We talked with Dan Shaughnessy, of course, the plug. Go check out the Dan Shaughnessy interview.
Yeah.
But
Go check it
he
out.
kind of talks about Cedric Maxwell's injuries in the 1980s, and him leaving the team, and the team, gaining Bill Walton, gaining Casey Jones from the Bill Fitch situation. That's where the Celtics are right now. You gain Joe Mazzulla from the Ime Udoka situation. You gain Porzingis and Holiday from the Smart, Brogdon, Robert Williams, Grant Williams situation. And that's how you just move forward as a winning club. And we all know the Celtics, they do a lot of winning, and they know how to get it done in that regard when it comes to moves behind the scenes from the front office, particularly Brad Stevens. And Wick Grossbeck's ownership. I know he's not going to be the owner anymore, but he had a huge hand in building this team as well as I'm sure. I mean, the owner has their hands in absolutely everything. The GM makes moves, but let's face it, he calls the owner before he calls the league.
Yeah, I just want to say, talking about Brad Stevens, I got to meet him at the Maine Celtics playoff game, which leads us to
Oh,
yeah. So you guys obviously see it. Thank you, fans. It was quite the season, I have to say. It was like I'm gonna say this. It was one season where last year I bought finals tickets because I was like, I gotta go see it. They unfortunately lost. Um, but you look at it this year, the Maine Celtics, we've been talking about it on this program, how the Maine Celtics have been hot, how they've been getting wins, and how they might go for another finals run this year. However, that was not the case as they lost to the Magic G League team. I just want to mention on it really quick. I know we cover the Celtics, but this is kind of my shine. This is my time to shine. So I gotta say they gained back Philip Wheeler, who signed a 10-day contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. He was a dog. He was an animal. I have a lot on him. If you guys, so it's like kind of a whole storybook. And I want to say this story on here because I don't think we'll ever have Philip Wheeler on. So I don't think it's a concern. But I went back in, when was it? I made a reel on this too, though. But I went back in New Year's Eve. The Maine Celtics had a game. They were playing the Texas Legends, which are the Mavericks G League team. Philip Wheeler, if you guys ever go watch his highlights, because he's incredible. He's a player that's gonna slam the ball down, and he makes it known. He screams at you after. And he was throwing down dunks, and he talked back to coach on the Maine Celtics bench, and they got into it. Not really, but there was a screaming match. Philip Wheeler got teed up. And then fast forward to the G League trade deadline, he gets traded to the Maine Celtics, which was like, what? But then this fast forward to my birthday when we went against the Magic, he went off and started throwing down crazy dunks again, just getting heated, fired up. And it got into a huge situation where Jay Scrub, you've heard that name, Jay Scrub. Yeah.
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
Southern Illinois. John A. Logan College. I mean, didn't go to Southern Illinois University, but Southern Illinois legend. That college is not too far away from me.
That's he's incredible. Jay Scrub's a man, but he would get, what NBA players do with the gun. He was, we're not gonna say that here though, but he
Or
was
John Morant with the grenade last night.
with the grenade. The
So after
grenade.
we talked about John Morant after the Grizzlies game, and Franco brought out the shooting noises, like, no, you got to bring out the grenades now for John Morant. I'm waiting for the rocket launcher, the bazooka to come out with John Morant.
Yeah.
Like, you bring up the truck, you open the truck, and then there's that, you got a ballistic missile in there. I'm waiting for that from John Morant. He's gotten to those levels. Yeah, he has a grenade now.
He is. He's going to extreme levels. But anyways, Jay Scrub was, given that after the three, a little pow pow. And then you had I don't want to mess up his name, Javante Smart, I think his name is. He plays with the Magic G League team. He had the what's it called? After a big three, who was ultimately the dagger, he had the rifle. He pulled out the rifle on the Maine Celtics on their bench. So it was a heated game.
These guys are like, you see them on their phones in the locker room. It's like, oh, are they texting somebody? Are they on Twitter? No, they're just looking up 20th century weaponry to celebrate with out on the floor. That's what guys are looking up in the locker room. They're going, what can I pull out here? Like, what kind of Colt 45 celebration? Like, what kind of weapon can I bring out? That's the rifle. So we got grenades, we got rifles, we got the Glocks out there, I guess. I mean, that's the patented one. It's just the normal Glocks, the two, there we go, right there. That's the normal one. But that's what these guys, apparently, you see them typing away in the locker room. They're not texting their family. They're not doing any of that.
They're finding.
They're looking up history.
Yeah, they're looking up history. I did mess it up though. That was a regular season game. The playoff game was when the playoff game, Philip Wheeler didn't play. That's when I met Brad Stevens. The playoff game was irrelevant, but I went to that Magic game that I went to. That was intense. In the first matchup, the Maine Celtics did lose that one. They also lost another one at home with Mac McClung there. Mac McClung hit a game winner in overtime, which overtime, I don't know if you've heard about this rule, but it's the 7 points. First to 7 points. It's super weird. I
So
hate
they have
that.
an Elam ending for G League overtimes, the Elam ending. So I mean that's obviously what we saw in the All-Star games. You have a target score, so you basically
Yeah.
have so overtime you just have a tie game into 7 points. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I wouldn't like that because last
I
night
hate
overtime between the Celtics and Knicks, that was 5 minutes of intense basketball. It was 12-10 afterwards. So I mean I understand with the scoring, but to 7. That's why I don't like the Elam ending. Like sometimes I just like to see the game play out the way it's going to play
exactly.
out within minutes.
Exactly.
The Elam ending, it's like I understand it kind of, you can't foul in those situations where it's
No,
like,
you
oh, we're fouling.
can't.
There's none of that takes that out of the game. But sometimes the target scores are just low. Like the All Star Weekend target
It's off.
scores
It's
this
it,
year were like
it's stupid.
40. It's like it's too low. Like 7 points in overtime. Like make it 10,
or
make it
or
15.
or give it. I said this, or just give it 2 minutes of overtime instead. Rather, I don't know. It's I don't know. I have a lot. Like I feel like I do want to do this. I want to have a G League episode this offseason and get in depth. We can talk about the rules. We can talk about the season because obviously this is a Celtics program. Like we're not gonna go in depth about it, but I wanted to give a shout out to wonderful season. I was talking about it. I think I went to out of like 20 something home games, I went to like 16 or 15 of them. So I went to almost all of the home games this season. Didn't miss a lot. Um, but so I was there for all the action pretty much. I'm it's funny because I was so disappointed. One of the games I missed, Jordan Walsh was there, but then I got to see him in the playoffs. So that was fun. But I wanted to give a shout out to everyone I did an interview with too. It's not a long list, but we started it off with the first one was with DJ Rodman, and which is son of Dennis Rodman, and I gotta give a huge shout out to him because a personal story I have with him is that um, I didn't know he got cut by the Maine Celtics, so he was there in street clothes because he got waived, and he was still so nice. Did the interview with me. Fast forward, he was back on the team the next day, but um, fast forward again to playoffs. When I saw him leaving the expo, he was. I saw him and people were asking for autographs, and he came up to me and he dabbed me up and he's like, "Yo, I saw our interview by the way," and I was like, "Sick!" So such a nice guy. I want to give a shout out to DJ Rodman. So there's a line where the Celtics players will come out, right? And you're not like if you're a player, you can't sign for kids there. He'll go over and sign for kids right there. He's such a nice guy, one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. But huge shout out to DJ. That was the first ever interview. If you guys want to go check it out, it's on YouTube Shorts. It's on TikTok, on Celtics Nation Rise, and then especially it's on the IG for Celtics Nation Rise. I'll leave those in the description. But the second one, I gotta give a huge shout out to my boy Cameron Warrens. Him and I, he's a player that came on this year, and we were singing "I Might Swerve in That Corner." Well, we were singing some Tweaker, so go watch that. And
I
then
wish I wish we had the rights to that song on here. I
I
really do.
do because
Could be example.
we were jamming, we were jamming to it. Um, Then I want to give a shout out, not on the Maine Celtics, but I'm like, look, it's Frank Kaminsky. Who couldn't get an interview with Frank Kaminsky?
Frank the
Yeah.
Tank, Wisconsin legend, Final Four. I mean, March Madness legend. I mean, come on, he definitely.
Yo,
He's
yeah,
one of. He's actually a player. Like, let me tell a little story here. He's kind of a player that got me into editing because,
really?
well, it's kind of a funny story. So I didn't, I have Celtics dot every day on Instagram, but before that, right, just had a personal page. This was probably back 2015, somewhere around that time. uh during that year, right? So Wisconsin makes the Final Four. Somebody made an edit of Frank Kaminsky, and it was just one of those, generic, like,
Hmm.
just like, what do you call it? Element FX edits where you just have like all this crazy nonsense around a play. Like it's just one of those photo edits. Like it's just a cool edit of a player, and you have maybe multiple of them, and there's shiny stuff on screen. Very 2015 esque type of edit. The early 2010s, those edits where they're just like, very grainy, filmy. And I reposted it from somebody, And then, back then on Instagram, you do follow for follow, shadow for shadow, all those things. Somebody shouted me out and went, "Oh, go to my page, go to Seamus's page. He makes some of the best edits." And I went, "Ooh, that's not my edit." It's like, "Ooh, I didn't make that, but I
Ah,
just got a shout out on that edit." And "Who? What if somebody like asked me to make an edit or like asked me about that edit?" I'm like, "I'm gonna actually have to edit." Like, and so after that, I actually tried to edit photos, and that's where the editing took off. Like literally all the editing I do today, it's like it started
thanks
with
to
that Frank Kaminsky edit, somebody saying, "Oh, go check out this guy. He makes all these great edits." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't edit anything." And it's like, "Oh, I got to learn how to do this in case somebody comes to ask me about it or ask whatever." And it's like nobody was coming to ask. I had what, 20 followers on Instagram. It's like such a ridiculous kid thought, but then hey, it sparked an entire editing career. So little
so
story on Frank the Tank there. Just saying.
yeah,
Love
shout
him.
out
Love
to
him.
Frank Kaminsky.
Wisconsin legend.
Shout out to Frank Kaminsky right there. I really hope I don't miss anyone in this. If so, like I said, we'll probably have a Maine Celtics one. We'll have DJ Bush back on here soon. I gotta give a shout out to him too. Maine Celtics DJ. We had an episode. Go check that out too. I think it was episode 19. If I'm yeah, I can't believe we're already on 33, by the way. We've been rolling this season. So many
You,
podcasts.
so you, but you this would be like 33 weeks, would it not be? So
Yeah, 33 weeks. Yeah, but we had a couple like we
I was
had
gonna say you probably had a couple like dual in a week because of the interviews and
yeah,
like
but essentially like I think we had 1 week off too because like schedule conflict. So honestly, we might be around like 33 weeks. So it's been an incredible run. We'll get to that though. But who else we got? We got Baylor Shireman. That one was great. Funny story with him. We were recording the interview, right? And I asked him a great question. I was asking him about his tattoos, who had the best strip on the team, and my phone ran out of storage. So it worked out though. It worked
you
out
got to
because
get the terabyte. I'm telling you,
I know. I dabbed
the
him up.
terabyte is so nice. I have the
Yeah,
terabyte. Like you
it's
can just whip it out, film it anytime. Whip
yeah,
it out, store anything. Like, that video everybody saw earlier, it's like needed a file conversion like my old phone. Not happening. Like that
yeah,
file conversion gonna take 30 minutes. The terabyte, hey, 2 seconds. Send
yeah.
it through.
That's what you gotta do. That's what I didn't do though. But it worked out because I dabbed him up, and my friend grabbed his phone because Frank Kaminsky was coming right there, and I was like, oh. This works perfectly because then I had Frank right here and we could just use your phone. A thing I do have to apologize to. I'm gonna get a mic for next season. I will. I swear, I'm getting a mic for next season. The quality in a lot of them are terrible, so I apologize. But then we fast forward. I think the next one was with we had Drew Peterson and Mac McClung. Those ones were great. The Peterson one was great. Mac McClung was great. Um, then you had Juan Evans, who played for the Clippers. You heard of that name before? Juan Evans. He's kind of a
Yeah, you hear about these guys, you don't see a ton of them, I will say, because they're just unless you see, shout out to I will say G League TV or GTV Hoops right now. I mean, that's where I get a lot of the G League info of mine. This guy dropped however many points, you see some of the highlights. Otherwise, G League games are kind of hard to catch. I don't know about you in Portland, obviously. Yeah,
yeah.
there you
Oh
go.
yeah, Juan Evans. You got the Juan Evans right here. Yeah, he's kind of like a if
We're still with the Agua Caliente Clippers. Is that what it's called? Is
I
that
think so. I'm not
Are
sure.
they still? I mean, I think they're still the Clippers, but are they the Agua Caliente Clippers? Is that?
I have no clue anymore. I really don't. But go
Let me
give
look
a
it up.
shout out. I want to give a shout out to Juan Evans. He was chill. And then we had Kavion Pippen, who is we were wondering
San
about this.
Diego Clippers. All right, they
Oh, San
moved.
Diego Clippers. Okay.
Okay,
So
I thought they changed. That's right.
yeah, so San Diego. All right. So Kavion Pippen, that's Scottie Pippen's nephew. It's his sister's son. So he was chill. Um, I know I'm forgetting some of them. O'Shea Brissett, I had a quick one with him, and then we had a long interview. So the first time, security kind of came out and was like, "Yeah, he needs to go. He can't do an interview." But the second time, he came out and he chatted it up with me. So that was super chill. Big shout out to O'Shea Brissett. He was such the man. Then um, we had James Banks, who he was short. I kind of just came up with off the top of the head. I didn't really know what to say with him because I don't know. I'm gonna get better with questions too. It's just you have to do it quick because they don't want to sit around there all day, So you have to be quick, you have to be efficient with it. And then who else? J Scrub, got one with J Scrub, the man, the myth, the legend. I feel like I'm missing some, but we got Jordan Walsh, who he was super quiet and he had such a great answer to my question, but he was so quiet, couldn't even hear. I believe that was it. I almost got one with JD, but I just want to give a huge shout out to the interviews. That was Alfred Payton. I got one with him too. Alfred
Oh
Payton.
yeah, the NBA guy, like that's a legit. I mean, he's been in the NBA. He's in and out of the NBA. Some of these other guys kind of, their NBA stints can be few and far between. It's like
Yeah.
Alfred Payton, kind of an NBA
Alfred
veteran.
Payton. Yeah. But I would say if we had to rank them, I would say like Alfred Payton is like NBA. You go Frank Kaminsky. I think he's NBA tier 2. Yeah, for sure. And then I would go Mac McClung's kind of at lower level with, I would say, no, Brissett's kind of up there with the NBA too, but not as far as Alfred Payton. I would say it's like kind of Brissett and Frank Kaminsky on the same level. Would you say? I would give it that.
I would say, I mean, Frank Kaminsky might have a little bit more
A
to
little
his
more
NBA
edge.
time.
Yeah,
With the
but
Suns, the Kings, with the Hornets. So
yeah,
he has some run out there. As for Brissett, he has a ring.
yeah,
He has a
which
ring.
is like,
Contributed to that championship team. It's not like he was the biggest piece off the bench, but he did contribute in that way. That's more than I'd say Brissett and Kaminsky. That's more than what Mac McClung has done in his NBA career, unless you
I
want to
know.
count the
Can I?
slam dunk contest and the back to back to back titles and that
You can I? Can I?
jumping over the Kia
Can I?
free sponsorship.
No, can I diss on Mac McClung here?
Oh,
Do
go
you
ahead.
give me the?
I'm not going to stop you here.
I huge shout out to Mac McClung. He's such a nice guy. Still got a picture with me, but one bone I have to pick with him is he said pregame he'd get me with an interview after. He said I got you. He brought out security just so they could escort him to the bus after. But and the security, he said first too, no, I gotta go. And then the security was like, yeah, we don't have time for interviews. So and guess how long he sat in the bus for? Like 20 minutes after. Like I couldn't ask you like a question or two, like whatever. I'm not mad about it. We got one interview, so I'm happy with the one. So I'm not gonna complain about it. But it would have been chill to have that. I sat out there for a long time in the cold, so it's
Hey, you're talking.
good.
You're coming in here. We were in the studio. You're talking. It's still snowing up in Maine,
It
apparently.
is, yeah. So
April.
got the internship. I'm not. I bet I could I shout it out on here? You think? Yeah. Shout out to Sea Dogs.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Sea Dogs.
Yeah.
Come see me in Portland.
100%.
Yeah, but yeah, I got the internship there. So yeah, and I gotta say this too. It's like it's cold out. Yesterday before the game, it was snowing out, and I didn't know if we were even gonna have the game. That's another minor league organization though. But I kind of want to wrap up on that. Great season. I would love to get into it in depth. Like maybe we'll have on Bush on here. And I will say this. I've been trying, quote me if I'm wrong, but Celtics Nation Rise is hopefully going to get some G Leaguers on here. I've had some in the work. I know one for pretty much certain. We just got to come up with a time and see if it's in person or whatever. Is a former Maine Celtics player, Reggie Consunwa. He plays for the Pistons now. I'm pretty sure
that was a while ago.
Yeah. He's one that we're pretty much gonna try to lock in. I'm not gonna say other names because I don't want to get everyone hyped up. But there's two other names that could potentially be out there. Warren's I'm still trying to work on, so that's one of them. But you guys would learn about Warren's if we have a podcast with him. But still in the making. I'm not going to get everyone excited about them, but I think we should at least have one. So one is going to be good. But I have to. I looked at this. We were talking about playoff predictions, but then I kind of want to do that.
Add one more thing, your G League thing, before moving on. One more thing. Just gonna bring this out real quick. The smart jersey swap. You mentioned Javonte Smart.
No way. I don't like.
We were talking about Marcus Smart. You mentioned Javonte Smart. We got to bring up this photo. Gotta.
Oh, this is perfect. The rifle himself. The rifle himself. I will say I got a picture with him. He's super. He was chill. Like after he was super chill. So I gotta give a huge shout out to him. He was a nice guy. That's great.
And we'll throw this out there for the viewers as well. No, the two Smarts, Javante Smart, Marcus Smart, not related. So this jersey swap was just, hey, we both had the last name Smart. Let's do it. Let's do it. And this was back in, I want to say 2022. See that 75-year anniversary logo there on the floor? This is all the way back 2022. See Grant Williams there in the background, Jaylen Brown.
Can I
You
mention
can't tell who
something
that
else
other
too?
player is
The
wearing the
look at the
mask.
court. Look at the court. It's still the white outline. It's not transparent.
Oh yeah. So yeah, 21-22 that season. At
Yep.
that, I gotta say the middle of the court, bring
No,
that back, C's. It was, the white outlet. Bill Chisholm, new owner. It's like bring that back. Bring that back.
no.
We don't need the transparent outline. It just makes a mess for
Can I
everybody. But yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Can I throw this up one last time too? I just gotta give a thank you to the Maine Celtics. I just had to throw that up there real quick.
And I'll mention this: the game between the Magic and the Celtics. Well, wait. The Magic and the Celtics actually play tonight as we're recording this. They play tonight, but the Magic and the Celtics G League teams, right? The Maine Celtics, the Osceola Magic, right?
Osceola,
The
yeah, however,
Osceola, right?
uh,
I say that correctly.
right.
They used to be the Lakeland Magic. We all know, but that matchup was a matchup between the reigning G League MVP and the current, I
Yup.
guess now reigning G League MVP and JD Davison. So Mac McClung, the reigning MVP from last year, and now JD Davison, the new current MVP of the G League. So you had Mac McClung, JD Davison in that little conference finals matchup. And just shout out to the Maine Celtics real quick to have a developmental system. I mean, well, first the NBA G League, the reason it's called G League is they give it the G League from the Gatorade sponsorship. It's the Gatorade sponsorship, which what's crazy is now we've been so far removed from the Gatorade sponsorship. Like that was supposed to be like, oh, we have the NBA D League. It was called the D League, the
D League.
developmental
Yup.
league, right?
Yup. Developmental
Became
league.
the G League over the Gatorade sponsorship, but now I feel like people don't connect the G League to the Gatorade sponsorship, but it kind of sounds better than the D League.
It
D League,
does.
G League, G League kind of sounds nice. But I was gonna say D League, that's originally what the NBA G League was called, and it's called the Developmental League. So the Celtics and the Maine Celtics, that's their developmental squad, that's their minor league squad. The Maine Celtics are to the Celtics. The fact the Maine Celtics are doing what they're doing now every season. Last year they lost in the G League finals. This year they made the G League conference finals and lost. Still a tremendous accomplishment. Winning the G League, winning it all, obviously nice, but just to compete at that
Yeah.
level is certainly something as well, because when you're developing players, you want to put them into winning situations. And I think we're seeing now more than ever guys go down to the G League, they develop. I mean, we've seen these guys get paid. Pascal Siakam, Isaiah Hardenstein. I mean, G League champions in the past. Chris Boucher, those type of players, they've been able to play in the G League, develop themselves there, and then make an NBA roster. Not only make an NBA roster, but make an impact on a rotation and get themselves paid within the process. The fact the Celtics are winning down down in Maine, or up in Maine, down in the G League, up in Maine, that definitely says something about the developmental system of the Celtics. And while they're winning at the NBA level, they're still winning at the G League level. And that's something ultra impressive. And it shows you how serious the Celtics organization takes their farm system and the development of all their players. Just the G League, so, some teams, they kind of manage it. They don't really care. I would say the care is increasing, realizing how much of a tool the G League is, some of these teams. But right now we're seeing the Celtics. They're in a golden era, both within the G League and the NBA. The NBA, obviously, we're trying to go back to back, but the G League, to make the conference finals a year after you make the finals. Meanwhile, the NBA teams having success. I mean, that's just going to spread success all around. It's going to be contagious, and the talent, the execution, the way to play basketball, the culture is
Yeah.
there with the Boston Celtics. We talk about heat culture so much. I feel like the Celtics, you look at the Maine
So
Celtics, the developmental side of the Celtics. You look at all the players on the bench For the Celtics, you think about guys like Hauser, Shireman, Peyton Pritchard, Luke Cornett, Nehemias Queta, all these guys. Now, the Heat culture, I feel like the Celtics have replaced it just a little bit. I said that earlier this season, but I'll say it again because the Heat just beat us this week, and I think we need to get up one up on the Heat anywhere we can. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I want to say this. So I think we're gonna wrap it up soon because I do gotta get ready. But in the playoff situation, I wanna do it next week because I feel like kind of you have time off, so we'll kind of give you a whole breakdown. Next podcast, we're gonna recap the games, obviously, like usual, but we're gonna go dive down and in depth into playoffs, and then we're gonna work in a schedule what we're gonna do with playoffs. Are you cool with that for next week?
Yeah, and next week I will say at this point next week, next Wednesday, we could know the Celtics playoff opponent. If
Yep.
that 7-8 East game, so how the play-in tournament will play or go about, let's just talk about the schedule. Regular season ends April 13th. Celtics play the Hornets. I'll have a post game after that. Everybody go check it out. Sunday, April 13th. That'll be an early game. It'll be 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. Probably be getting on the post game 2, 3 o'clock. After that game, we have April 13th. April 14th is nothing. Absolutely nothing going around the NBA. April 14th is a free day.
Mhm.
April 15th, first day of the play-in. April 15th and April 16th, those dates will be 7-8 matchups and 9-10 matchups. And then you'll have a date off, April 17th, nothing again. April 18th will be that 8 seed matchup where it's the winner of the 9-10, the loser of the 7-8. They play, and whoever wins that goes into the playoffs as the 8 seed. So it's possible by the time this is filmed next week on April 16th, because typically every Wednesday, right?
Yep.
It's possible we'll know the East 7-8 game result, which means we'll know the Celtics playoff opponent next
So
week
then
on
we'll have
Wednesday,
even more.
potentially. Now, we could be in a scenario where they don't play the East, they play the West first. I'm thinking we're going to see the result because if the podcast is filmed during the day, April 16th, and the game's at night, we obviously won't know the result there. But if the game's played April 15th, podcast
Yeah.
recorded the 16th, we'll know the opponent. I'm thinking the East 7-8 game is going to be maybe on the first night because they're either going to play on the first night the 7-8 games, East West, or they're going to go East 7-8, East 9-10, then they're going to go West 7-8, West 9. I think that's going to be the order. We'll see how it plays out, but next week we'll know a lot more about every opponent and playoff potential opponent for not only the Celtics but the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Right now we're in a position where, I mean, for the last month we've been basically sitting here going, is it going to be the Magic? Is it going to be the
Yeah.
Hawks? Could be the Bulls at this point. I mean, the Bulls are trying to make a push up there, trying to be that frisky team right now after trading away Zach LaVine. But could be the Bulls, just saying. But everybody else's playoff seeding, especially out west. Out west. 3 through 8 right now is just oof. 3 through 8. You could legitimately a team right now. Say like the Lakers, they're in the 3 spot. If it's realistic that the Lakers, now I don't think they're going to do this because they have a little bit of an inside edge, but they could fall all the way down to 8 right now. They're at 3, they could fall all the way down to 8. And 8 is a whole different ball game than 3. At 3, you got 3-6. Second round, you don't have to face Oklahoma City. You face that 2-seeded Rockets team, maybe against the 7 seed, whoever comes out of that series. And then you have the conference finals against Oklahoma City. You avoid OKC if you're the 3 and you have the 2 in round 2 and you have that path towards OKC in the conference finals potentially. But if you're 8, you face OKC round 1. So drastic difference happening with the standings out west, particularly at this time. And next week, that's the fun part about this week is it's the final stretch into finding out the answers and the results of the standings that we've been talking about for just months. At this point, it's months. It's ever since All-Star break, that's when you start really looking at those things. I would say we've been looking at the standings all season, but early on you're thinking, oh, there's so many more games left. This could shift around. It does every year. After All-Star break, there's not 30 games, 20 games left. A tier ranking system with 20 games left, and that's just thrown up into the air at this point. With 3 games to go, still a lot to be decided. But the fun part is by this time next week, we will literally know almost everything outside of maybe a 7 and 8 matchup, a 9 and an 8 seed matchup. The 8 seed matchups, we won't know. Maybe we'll know a 7-8 matchup. Maybe we'll know both of them by this time next week. But regardless, we'll have a lot more clarity at this time next week than we do right now when it comes to the playoff opponents of the Celtics and just the general standings of the NBA.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, and you said it right there. We're probably gonna know, so that'll give us even more to talk about. But obviously now we gotta cover the road ahead really quick. We'll do our predictions, and then we will see you guys next week. But obviously tonight the Boston Celtics facing the Orlando Magic. Then you got two against the Hornets. Seamus, start us off. What is your series prediction? How many games are we gonna win? What is it gonna be by next week? What are your thoughts?
Well, the Celtics, tonight's game against the Orlando Magic, I don't see it as a very intense game. I think the Celtics played their last intense game of the season, regular season wise,
Yep.
against the New York Knicks at MSG. Play another game on the road. We all know against the Orlando Magic tonight. Then they go home for 2 games against the Charlotte Hornets. I don't see the same intensity coming out within the Magic game and the Hornets games. The Magic, they could be a first round opponent. You might be trying to hide some things from the Magic. I think we're going to see a lot. It's the let's face it, last night, 47 minutes from Tatum. I mentioned earlier, 37 minutes for Drew Holiday, 38 minutes for Kristaps Porzingis. We're going to see some rest tonight. We are in Orlando.
Indeed.
I think you're going to see the Celtics rest with all those minutes played last night. Second night of a back-to-back. You're on the road. You fly from New York to Orlando. The Celtics are certainly going to be resting some players in that situation. So I don't see the game being as intense because you're playing a first-round opponent. You're trying to hide things. You're trying to rest guys. You just played an intense game against the New York Knicks. And the Magic, they just have not been the best team the second half of the year. I mean, they've gone beyond a level of, oh, they're injured, right? This season they've sustained injuries across the board, most notably Boncaro and Franz Wagner. They were out multiple months with oblique tears, both of them. I don't know what kind of workouts go on in Orlando for those guys to have oblique tears the way they did. But those guys are out of the lineup. The Magic falter in that time. Then they lose rather their spiritual leader in Jalen Suggs, and he's not only their spiritual leader, he's a real offensive facilitator and scorer for them, and defensively, I mean, he's just a hound dog, and they don't have him in the lineup right now. And Jalen Suggs, it's beyond a point where the Magic, they're playing worse than what they really should be, even though they have some of these players back. They have Franz Wagner back. They have Paulo Banchero back. KCP's playing better on the year than he started out as. And he was the big offseason acquisition that was supposed to take the Magic from 4 or 5 seed to maybe they can make their way into that 2-3. But the injuries have just ravaged the Magic this year, and they just really haven't been able to find their footing at all, even when these guys have been healthy. No Jalen Suggs right now, but you have Boncaro and Wagner back. The team, the Magic, this is a game where the Celtics should outshoot the Magic from three. The Magic are just a terrible 3-point shooting team. That's just, unfortunately, you can't really win in today's NBA if you have a terrible 3-point shooting team. That's unfortunately the Magic's issue. The offense is just putrid for the Magic. But the Celtics still have to play. As we know, the Magic like to make it a rock fight. The Celtics lost a 108-104 game to the Magic in Orlando the last time the Celtics were down there in Florida. So tonight's game, it's not wildly important for the Celtics, but there are some stakes. If the Celtics win tonight in Orlando, the Celtics will tie the 2015-16 Golden State Warriors, the 73-9 Golden State Warriors, for most road wins in an NBA season with 33. Right now, the Celtics are tied second with the 95-96 Chicago Bulls. So the 72 win Bulls team, the Boston Celtics, they have 32 road wins on the year. They're tied second right now in NBA history. If they win tonight in Orlando, they will be tied first in NBA history. And it makes you think, how awesome would this team be if they actually won at home? They were able to win 33, maybe if they win tonight, 33 road wins on the year. They tie the 73-9 Golden State Warriors again. If they win tonight, they're already tied with the 95-96 Bulls. Imagine, I mean, those two teams had 73 and 72 wins. Imagine if the Celtics were able to win at home. Maybe we're talking about a 70-win season. Who knows for the Boston Celtics? But that's what's at stake in that Magic game. Regardless, I see a lot of players resting. I don't see it as an intense game as we saw in New York. And those Charlotte games, you're just trying to get through to get to the end of the season. 2 games against one of the worst teams in the NBA. Charlotte wants the positioning for their capture the flag journey. They want 2 extra losses. Celtics throw up 2 extra wins, get to 62 on the schedule tonight. Get to 60 if you're the Celtics. the final 3 games of the regular season, we're going to see a lot of experimentation. We're going to see a lot of rest. And I don't want to say, slightly unfortunately, it's just these games are not going to mean much for the C's whatsoever. The opponents, there's 2 left. You have the Hornets, who are the worst team in the league. You're already locked into the 2 seed if you're the Celtics. I think you play a really one great intense game against the Knicks. Didn't play well in that game. Still, the Celtics were able to pull that out, really get themselves going down the stretch in that game. I shouldn't say down the stretch. They let up a 10-2 run in 4 minutes, but after that, they overcame adversity in overtime, was able to pull out that game. Haven't had a game like that in a while. You needed that situation if you're the Celtics. You got that. You have all the good play as of late. You have that great game in New York last night that you feel good about winning. You don't feel good about how you play, but you feel good about winning the way you're able to pull it out. If you're the Celtics and now 3 games left, these games just aren't going to be intense. And the Celtics, the main goal is just going to be stay healthy, stay healthy, stay healthy. Keep the rhythm as much as you can, but stay healthy. Otherwise, not much going for the team who's going to be locked into this 2 seed, waiting for their play-in opponent next week, whether it's the Hawks, the Magic, or potentially the Chicago Bulls.
I agree. I think ultimately you're going to see a lot more rest. I feel like Jaylen Brown either will sit tonight or play the other 2. But I think essentially you're going to see him playing 2, and then you're going to see him sitting in the last game. Not sure exactly, but ultimately I feel like these games, like we talked in the past, how they've been just effortless wins by the Boston Celtics. Like they've just kind of, it's the fact that they were able to give it half effort and still come away with these wins. But we look at it now, this might be the most effortless basketball you've seen all year. Now, I think they're going to do it in a sense of aggressiveness, though, because I'm sure now the Boston Celtics are looking forward to playoffs and they want to get these wins rather than kind of when we were playing 500 ball, when we would kind of blow them at the end, not care. I feel like now you have that competitiveness because you're going into playoffs where you're going to get effortless basketball, but at the same time, it's going to be competitive basketball. I don't know, but that's what my thoughts are. I feel like we'll go into predictions, obviously, for the next 3 games, but I think tonight is going to be a close game. 3-0. You're going 3-0, Seamus?
Marcus Morris, this was the famous, Joel Embiid chirping to Marcus Morris. He's going 3-0, 3-0, game 4 against Philly, 3-0. Yeah, I mean, why not? We win against the Magic tonight, road win record on the season. Then you have 2 games against the Hornets. The Hornets don't want to win. They don't want to win those games. They don't want to sacrifice their draft position. I was talking about it the last week and a half. There's a mutual aspect to these games when you play the Hornets, when you play the Wizards. Those teams are going, you know what, Celtics, you get to 60 wins. Go ahead, get to 60 wins. We're not trying to win this game. We're trying to keep our win total at 16, 17. We're trying to capture the flag. We don't care about
capture
the
flag. Can I say something? I can't believe Duke lost. I can't believe Florida Gators. Al Horford, gotta give a shout out to Al Horford, Florida Gator.
Look. First of all, I haven't even watched the national championship yet. The whole tournament, right? March Madness. Obviously, we got a lot of Celtics going on, a lot of NBA stuff. So, the NCAA tournament takes a back seat to the NBA, like right now for me. But I'm still an advocate for March Madness. I still get my March Madness in, watch it afterwards, watch the replays, of course. And I'll say this. I'll say this. I haven't watched a national championship game. I have an inkling of who may have won. Just saying, might have been spoiled here or there. Just saying. No, not by you, Griffin. Not by you. I feel like I know who won. All right, I don't officially know, but the Final Four. I saw the Duke game. I witnessed the Auburn Florida game. I witnessed every other game in the tournament, but the national championship. At this point, I know I need to. That's kind of on the agenda today. Turn on the national championship, watch it, right? And what type of game it was. No. Trust me, I already know. It's impossible today in this era. It's impossible not to have some sort of information leaked to you in these situations, especially when you're a big basketball fan. But
Yeah.
I will say that Duke loss, Duke is going to be kicking themselves over that Final Four loss for quite some time. It might be worse than that North Carolina loss they sustained. I mean, Coach K, I feel bad for Coach K. I mean, he had that illustrious career at Duke, yet it's ended. The final game at home, Allen Fieldhouse there, beaten by North Carolina in 2022, Coach K's last home game with Duke, and then Coach K's last game, period, of his entire coaching career in the Final Four against North Carolina, loses to the rivals. Duke fans got to feel a certain way about that one, but
Mhm.
my goodness, this last one against the Houston Cougars. I mean, Kelvin Sampson, absolutely love Kelvin Sampson as a head coach. Some of the players on that team, LJ Cryer, um, Sharp, Emmanuel Sharp. I mean, he just came up with some big plays, big turnovers down the stretch of that Duke Houston game. The score, the game ended on an 11-1 Houston run over the final minute 14 seconds. So a minute 14 seconds, right? I, Duke, they're up. They're in full control of the game. Most of the game, it looked like Duke was in control.
Yeah,
You kind of knew. You're like, okay, Duke,
is
they're
yeah,
they're they're the better team. They're able to score whenever it feels like they want. But it was kind of that game where you're feeling like, okay, Duke's the more superior team. But Houston, they're 6 points away. They're 8 points. It was kind of that 10-8, 6 point range. And you're going, all right, they're a little close. And then it got late in the game. You're thinking, okay, Duke, just go and close this out. Do what
mhm.
you've been doing the whole game. And they allow 11-1 run over the final
Crazy,
minute 15 seconds,
crazy.
essentially. And Duke's going to be kicking themselves because they were the better team in that game. They controlled most of that game. And in crunch time, they just let it go with missed free throws, turnovers, allowing shooters to get open, allowing Houston to come up with big putback buckets as well. And Duke was the better team. They have to think, oh, we had Houston. We had them. We were the better team. We should have beat them. And from that, we all know in the national championship, anything can happen. Duke versus Florida, if that were to happen, and it didn't. And that's why Duke, their fans, Cooper Flag. That's the thing about a player like Cooper Flag, Concanipple, Malawach as well. Those are the three NBA guys for Duke this year. Probably all three top 10 picks
Oh
in
yeah.
the NBA. You only get one opportunity at this, right? You only get one opportunity, and that was their one opportunity, and they just let it
Look,
slide. And they could have been, they're still going to be in Duke lore for making the Final Four and achieving success in that manner. Don't get me wrong, but not winning the national championship, not even getting to the national championship when you've been dominating everybody. You had Houston in that game. They're going to be kicking themselves over
oh,
that one for a long time because out of all the teams left, I think Duke was easily the best. But we all know when you're talking about four number one seeds, each of those teams have the ability, the talent, the
yeah.
coaching, the X's and O's to beat each other. And that's what we saw in that Duke versus Houston game. We saw an experienced Houston team who really gets after it defensively, doesn't give up whatsoever, was able to come up with big plays down the stretch, had a head coach in which they believe in, they follow everywhere they go, Kelvin Sampson. And they've been doing it for the past couple of seasons as well. Houston made the Final Four back in 2021. They're back in the Final Four, made the national championship. I'm not going to say the result here because I'm not really sure, but whether they won or lost, it's I'll say great accomplishment for every team that was there in the Final Four. Three of the teams, the number one seeds, wanted the better result, but Houston and Duke for what they were able to do just to make it to that point, impressive tournament runs. Regardless, Duke's again going to be kicking themselves, but you got to give credit where credit's due. When you make the Final Four and you dominate like that in the NCAA tournament, that's certainly something to take home at the end of the day. It'll just take a while for that to be something that's appreciated from the Duke fan base because we all know the Celtics side of things. 2022, when the moment happened against the Warriors, game six, it hurt. It stung after game six when the Celtics lost at home and lost that series. But in
Oh,
time, you win the title in 2024 and you realize, you needed 2022 to win in 2024. That was a great experience. Celtics weren't even expected to make that point, yet they did. And that's that's just kind of how it goes in the sports world in basketball. You lose some, you win some. Seen 10 championships, right? I was going over this with Franco just to before we end up. I was going over this with Franco the other night. It's like how many championships have we each seen within our respective sports teams? Now we're a little different. He Bruins and Red Sox guy. I'm of course Cardinals and Blues guy, and we both like the Patriots and Celtics. I found out the record for myself: 6-4 in championships. All right, 6-4. You got Cardinals World Series loss, got two Patriots Super Bowl losses, the Giants and the Eagles, and you have that 2022 Celtics loss as well. Those are the four championship losses I had. The other six, pristine. You have three Patriots Super Bowls, a Blues Stanley Cup, you have a Cardinals World Series, and a Celtics Larry O'Brien trophy laced within there as well. And that was last season. And we know how special those championship moments are, but those championship moments, how special they are, the reason they're special is because you have the moments of failure and the moments where your team doesn't come through. And unfortunately, those things happen, but you definitely have to appreciate good teams when they come about, even if they can't get over the hump and win a ring like that Duke squad in which we're talking about. Still a lot to be, still a lot of positive to take out of the Cooper Flag experience at Duke and that run, but they're going to be kicking themselves, like I said, for a very, very, very long time. Maybe not that long. Cooper Flag, he's going to be making $14 million in the NBA next year, so I'm sure he'll be fine.
So give a quick shout out to episode 30, I think it was, with Coach AJ. I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah. Episode 30, go watch it on Celtics Talk Weekly program and on Celtics Nation Rise. Go check it out. I think we're gonna try to get him again this off season for before the draft. Maybe we could do something else. We'll figure it out. But yeah, go check that out. I'm gonna go along with you, Seamus. You really convinced me. I'm gonna go 3-0 too. Yeah, you're right. 3-0. Wait, how'd you do it? 3-0, whatever. 3-0. Flip. I can't do it. Whatever.
Yeah, you did the flip. There you go.
3.
Marcus Morris. Wait.
No. 3. No. I agree though. I think 3-0 too. I'm gonna go with 3-0 because I think the Boston Celtics ultimately, like you said, it's kind of that factor where Hornets are in the situation, capture the flag, and the Boston Celtics tonight want to get that road record. So I'm gonna go along with you. I'm gonna say the Boston Celtics get 3-0 as well. Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like it's tough because you're like, all right, we might be slacking a little bit, but at the same time, I completely agree. So I'm gonna go 3-0. So I believe the next time we see you guys, the Boston Celtics will be 62-20. Hopefully, knock on wood. I'm telling you, Seamus, we flash
59,
back.
and we're already to 59. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I mean,
Yeah,
we were going to blow past that.
Franco and I were going, 60. We were going 60, and you guys thought we were crazy. You thought we were crazy, but
Now,
that's what the Celtics did. That's what the
now
Celtics.
I will say I have another thing to pull up here on stream before we get off. One more item. Actually, two more items, but this is where the 3-0 comes from. All right, folks. Wait, I just did it wrong. So 3-0. Okay.
3-0.
That's where it comes from right here.
3.
Joel Embiid talking smack to Marcus Morris. This is the 2018 Eastern Conference semifinals. This is the Cuss Cries Celtics, as some fans like to call them out there, but this is a legendary Celtics team who defeated the Philadelphia 76ers. So this Celtics team backstory didn't have Kyrie, didn't have Hayward. They were the 2 seed. Nobody believed in them against the Bucks. Nobody believed in them against the Sixers. Well, they beat the Bucks in 7 games. Then they go and play the Philadelphia 76ers, beat them in games 1 and 2, thrash them in game 1 at the Garden. Game 2, the Celtics mount, I believe, a 26-point comeback. It was just an insane comeback at the Garden to make it a 2-0 series. Game 3, it's the confetti game. Marco Bellinelli, foot on the line. Everybody in the Wells Fargo Arena thinks game 3, it's over because Marco Bellinelli just made a 3 for the win. Foot was on the line. Game goes to overtime. The arena, the personnel at the arena, they drop confetti on the floor after they believe the Sixers win in regulation. They didn't win. It was tied. That goes to overtime. Celtics win 3-0 series. And it brings us to game 4. Game 4, the Sixers actually won. However, Joel Embiid was talking smack to Marcus Morris, and Marcus Morris had to let him know 3-0. 3-0, 3-0. You're down 3-0. Celtics lost this game, but then, of course, they came back, won a classic game 5 at the Garden, ended in a Marcus Smart interception. And those are some of the moments. Sometimes you talk about Marcus Smart. There's a lot of good moments from the 2020s, but you got to think about the late 2010s as well. Marcus Smart, that intercepted pass in the series, but good moment. Marcus Morris, rather, talking about Marcus Morris here, 3-0 to Joel Embiid. So that's where that comes from, folks. The 3-0.
So let's go with that 3-0. But thank you again so much for watching. Like I said, we'll give you some playoff action next week. Yeah, that's right. Playoffs are right ahead from us. So make sure to tune in next week. Go check out the recent podcast because I tell you what, we've been cooking here at Celtics Talk Weekly now. So go check those out. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And go check down the description. Go check our links out. Go have some fun. This is where you get all your Celtics content here at Celtics Nation Rise and Celtics Talk Weekly.
And folks, I'll tell you this because a YouTuber reminded me of this last night. I was watching YouTube and I'm a weather guy. I like to watch my weather YouTubers and check the weather and whatnot. He was like at the end of the video, he goes, "Don't forget to like and subscribe, folks. Subscribe." I look down, I go, "Oh my goodness, I'm not even subscribed to this guy. I've been watching him for years." I'm going, boom, subscribe.
A lot
That's
of
why
you
it's
guys, yeah,
important to say like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is. Turn on those post
post
notifications.
notifications. Yeah.
Post notifications, okay? You're notified every time we go live, every time a podcast, a clip drops. We have a
Mhm.
million clips. If you guys don't want to even watch our live streams, our recordings, go to the clips. They're 10 minutes, they're 15 minutes, they're 20 minutes long. Go watch all the clips. You have all the information there. It's all the post games and these podcasts just cut down. Everybody go check that out. But yeah, like, subscribe, post notifications. Go do that, everybody.
That's
Gotta
what
mention that. Gotta mention
you
that.
gotta do it. And I gotta say too, I still I'll have my phone over there, right? When we do the post game show, and I'll still have Celtics Talk Weekly live right now. And I'm like, yeah, we are.
Yep.
Yep. So make sure post notifications, guys. Go turn those on. But thank you guys again so much for watching. We will see you guys next week with some playoff action. Playoff action. Way to end it off. Thank you guys for watching though. Peace, guys.